Now it's time for StoryBoard, the show where you are the head writer. And now here's your host, Mr. Steve.
Hi, as you can tell, for those of you who watched the show before, I'm not Mr. Steve. Mr. Steve has a family court date today, so he couldn't be with us. I'm his colleague at Grover Cleveland Middle School. I teach 7th grade English. My name is Mr. Adelstein. I'm a little more formal about my name. And this, of course, is StoryBoard. StoryBoard is a show where it's a collective writing show where people call in and give us a sentence to continue and embellish our short story. Short story is something I teach to my students in my class because it's a great way to really show creativity. And it's not long like a novel, so you can actually finish it. We have a theme, Mr. Steve told me, we have a theme for every show, and today's theme is Catastrophe, and I'll write it on the board. Hope I spell it right, it's a long word. I think that's right. I think it's correct. It would be really embarrassing if it wasn't, because I'm a middle school teacher. So the way StoryBoard works is I'm going to start our short story with a sentence that I've thought up based on the theme of catastrophe. And then you call in to the show, and the number is on the bottom of the screen. It's 323-993-8088, and we're live, so you can call in and speak to me, Mr. Adelstein. Sorry if you're disappointed that you couldn't speak to Mr. Steve, but this court date is quite important to him. So again, 323-993-8088, and I've come up, I wrote it down, I'm a little nervous, so I thought I might forget my first sentence, so I wrote it down. First I'll erase the theme, catastrophe, and I won't forget that. So I'll just put this down here. Ezekiel smelled smoke coming from the roof. Mr. Steve told me, because it's television, you really want to grab your audience. And so I thought maybe something that might strike fear into the hearts of any homeowner is smelling smoke from your house. And it's sort of topical because a lot of Southern California has wildfires right now. So I thought maybe this would really induce callers to call. It's a live show, and I know if you just switched over from any of the local news stations, you might have seen a roof that was smoking or even on fire. Grover Cleveland Elementary School is a really great place to teach. It's Mr. Steve's a great colleague of mine, and the students really love him. He's really good with kids, which I'm sure he's telling a civil court judge right now. So we have obviously we have a person's name. That's going to be our subject. Our subject meaning not our subject, our protagonist, maybe. He's a character, Ezekiel. There's the verb, he smelled, and there's all the rest. And it's now your turn to call me up and give me the next sentence, and I'll write it down, and hopefully it works within our sentence. But then again, creative writing doesn't always work exactly how you think it might. Creative writing is creative. You can do pretty much anything you want within the English language or any language. That's what Mr. Steve told me that this show is all about. So again, 323-993-8088 for any call-in live. My favorite book is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. The Great Gatsby is a book about a rich man who lived on Long Island, I think in the 20s. And it has catastrophe, our theme in that book, because at the end of the book, he committed suicide. I'm pretty sure, or F. Scott Fitzgerald, the author, committed suicide, or they might have both committed suicide. So catastrophe is just intertwined in that book. Another one, I love Roald Dahl. He's a great author. He writes children's stories that my students read. Turns out he was a spy for the British in World War II. So that gave him an extra layer, I think, of he's interesting to me because of a lot of those things. He's a great author, and he even wrote some adult stories that I don't let my students read because they're kind of dirty. This is collective writing. I mean, I need people to call in to this live show and help us, because really what writing is, it's sort of your subconscious speaking. And I think the beauty of StoryBoard is that it's a collective subconscious speaking. It's many of us speaking in one voice to make a story. Now, a story, no matter how long, should have a beginning, middle, and end. There's something called stream of consciousness writing, which is also fine, but we'd like our stories to have beginning, middles, and ends, because you want to grab the reader. You want to tell the reader a story. You want to give them a character, maybe like Ezekiel, who you care for. And maybe, if you like Ezekiel, you're concerned that he smelled smoke coming from the roof. What might happen to his roof? What's going on in the roof? This is all up to you. 323-993-8088. Our baseball team this year, which I'm assistant coach of the baseball team at Grover Cleveland, is doing quite well. I'm sorry? I'm sorry. I was told by the producer to keep it on the subject of creative writing, which makes complete sense. Sometimes my students mention that to me when I talk about my personal life and the shows I like and the radio I like to listen to. This kid named Chris Williams especially is like, Mr. Adelstein, get back to the subject at hand.
Keep creative writing.
Okay. They're being kind of pushy. So creative writing is really an important tool for anyone in any field. I know I didn't get into law school, but if I had, I think writing is an integral part of what goes on there. If you're a lawyer, you need to write. If you're a guidance counselor, you need to write. If you're a teacher, you certainly need to write. If you're a 7th grade English teacher at a middle school, you certainly need to know how to write. And I do know how to write, and that's how I got the job.